multiple points of ingress by the Russian army on this map, and we've got General Ata Hasnain joining us at this time, and he'll give us a sense of how Vladimir Putin seems to have wargamed this entire invasion. First and foremost, General Hasnain, do you think that President Zelensky and the Ukrainian army was caught off guard? Because President Putin declared his intention publicly, and yet it seems, at least from public rhetoric, that Zelensky didn't think that an attack was coming. And when it came, and I'll show you across this map of Russia and Ukraine, the multiple points of attack. And when you see it, you realize the ferocity of the attack, the fact that he's attacking by sea, by air, by land, coming in from the eastern part into Ukraine, coming in from Belarus towards Chernobyl, coming in also from the sea, landing at the port city of Odisha, and therefore suggesting that this is a very well planned operation. Is the Ukrainian army caught off guard, or do you think they're just overwhelmed because they don't have the military capability to take on the enemy that they're up against?
Thank you, Rahul. Lots of questions there, no doubt. As to the first one, whether the Ukrainians were caught off guard. Well, I suppose the Russians, for the last couple of months, have been wargaming very intensely, strategizing and planning. And in no way would they want to ever reveal their hand. So obviously there is a deception plan also in place, and that deception plan included a very high profile information warfare campaign, which has been also going on since 2014. This is something that the Russians have perfected. So the combination of information warfare along with the rest of conventional warfare strategizing was what was brought to bear here. The Ukrainians were depending a lot on NATO, on Europe, on the Americans
but
to
why?
bail them out.
Can I just pause you to ask this? NATO didn't once say that they'd come to Ukraine's rescue militarily. They said we'd do sanctions, so did President Biden, but there was no concrete suggestion of NATO military intervention, and therefore if that's what President Zelensky is banking on, then isn't that rather naive?
It is absolutely naive. In fact, that's the right word to use. It is absolutely naive. He was reading too much into this and hoping that he'll be able to convince Europe that Ukraine, for all its strategic importance, deserved to be given a boots on ground kind of a assistance, which never came. And I think he was hedging his bets as far as instigating the Russians was concerned, all the time making some provocative statements from time to time and things like that. The Russians were quiet to an extent, and Mr. Putin was absolutely supportive of his military forces in terms of the overall strategic plan. No statements, everything considering deception was there. Now let's come to the other part of it. Yesterday, what you've seen, 24 hours have gone past. The Russians, to my mind, have still not used full power. You see, they've used the air power to an extent. They've even used their special forces. They've used amphibious forces on Odessa. They've used mechanized forces coming in from different directions. But still at this moment, there hasn't been a reported major contact battle. What they've gone for is isolation of cities, primarily. And
no, but how do you hold on to a country like that? Try and explain that to me militarily.
Exactly what
let's imagine that you've taken the airport near Kyiv, or you've taken some significant military installations, including something symbolic like Chernobyl. You don't have at this moment enough boots on the ground to hold a people and a nation, and especially if they're hostile and they want to push back. So what's the larger military strategy? What do you think, looking at it from the outside, is President Putin's endgame?
To my mind, Rahul, this is incremental. Maybe on the first 24 hours of the battle, he doesn't want to put out all his forces. This is where you keep your windows of opportunity open. And showing that, see, we have the capability, and there's a high-profile information warfare going on simultaneously. So let's take the example of Kiev. Kiev is isolated. The airport has been taken over. Special forces are there. Certain amount of symbolic bombing of certain areas has taken place. Shelling has taken place to actually shell shock the population. This is the typical shock and awe what you saw in 2003.
No, you can take Kiev airport, but can you hold it? Imagine if there aren't more boots on the ground. Can President Putin's army hold the Kiev airport?
Let me finish this. Now, this is the time pushback from the Ukrainians? Will it take place? Do they have the leadership for it? Do they have the capability to do it? To my mind, yes, they can fight back. They can fight back for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Beyond that, maybe a little more difficult. But let me tell you, getting into any of these built-up areas for the Russians isn't going to be an easy thing. I'll remind you what happened at Mosul. The battle for Mosul carried on for 2.5 to 3 months, if you remember. This is exactly the kind of problem you're going to face here. These are cities, these are large cities, and you can come and isolate them, you can cut off the roads and tracks leading to them, but to gain an entry into the town and to get to the core center of the town and hold it is very, very difficult. So the pushback may not be conventional. The pushback from the Ukrainians may be still asymmetric. And that's something which the next 2, 3, 4 days will tell us.
And that could be a nightmare because you'd have in trickles body bags coming back to the streets
Absolutely.
of Moscow,
That
is something which won't go down well in Russia at all. VB Soni joins us, has been the ambassador of India to Ukraine. Ambassador Soni, welcome. I met President Zelensky 2 years ago at the World Economic Forum at Davos, very young, sprightly, at that time a big Davos star, now under siege. He's offered for negotiations. What do you think President Zelensky is hoping to do as he tries to get out of this Russian invasion?
Good evening, Rahul. Let me say it's a very difficult situation. I think he's been misled into suggesting that somebody will come to their aid, not in terms of actual fighting, but give them moral support more than just announcing sanctions. So he has now really lost faith. He's on his own. How long can he hold on? So he has to find a way out to salvage his position. I don't think it's going to be long-lasting. But for now, how does he handle? So before more devastation is caused, before more civilian casualties happen, and more takeover takes place, it is best to find a way where they can discuss terms.
What could that be? Because from what I understand on the outside, President Putin wants to see the back of President Zelensky, and the first thing he wants is the president gone.
I don't think that can be avoided. Let me tell you, even if even Ukrainians want him to continue, he cannot possibly continue. Not just because of credibility. He doesn't have any face. He can't possibly, he has not shown any leadership qualities. He has not taken decisions. He had knowledge, information, intelligence well in advance.
What could he have done, given the asymmetry, the difference between the military capabilities of Ukraine and Russia? What else could he have done, Ambassador?
He could have used the international pressure on him more. I mean, some pressure was applied, but it was half-hearted. I mean, you say just Biden maybe once or twice he may have said something. But I mean, most pathetic cases of the European Union. I mean,
no, but that's not President Zelensky's fault. He tried as much as he could to get all the global support that his nation could muster, and then if he's dealing with Russia alone, at some level he would be crestfallen that nobody from NATO came to his defense.
See, it is your judgment at that particular time to what extent that help will be forthcoming, and if that help is not forthcoming on the ground, should he then abandon the people? He should. So it's a lack of judgment. It's a wrong judgment, I would think. And he could have taken some corrective action. And if that help or support is not forthcoming, then what's the way out? What is the escape clause? He never thought about it, because when such a situation you are entering into and you are planning for something, there has to be the second alternative for him. He should have worked out.
And was he in denial? That's the other question. For the longest time, did he fail to comprehend the enormity of the challenge that was coming his way? I want to slip into a quick break. We'll be back on the other side. I'll bring you the news track tonight. We're staying focused on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, our live and exclusive coverage from Ukraine, from Russia, from Washington DC as well, and very soon from different parts of Europe. Details coming up on the other side. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.